Hi everyone, I am storyteller Priya Muthukumar with another story. Okay, I hope all of you are doing good. What good is a string? What good is a ball of wool? What could you do with a ball of wool? Oh dear, what could you do with a ball of wool? Oh dear, listen to this story to find out, my dear. Yes, this story is all about a ball of wool. This particular storytelling is inspired by the book The Little Red String, written and illustrated by Madhumita Srivastava, published by Pratham Books. So let's go straight into the story. What could a ball of wool be of any use? That's exactly what little Kushi thought. The 10-year-old Kushi, yesterday was her birthday and she had had a jolly good time. The next day morning, she had woken up early to rip open all her gifts and see what exactly were inside. And that's exactly what she did. She found, she got an iPad, she got some books, she got some building blocks, she got some puzzles. Amongst all these gifts, there lay an uncanny brown cover. No gift wrapper also. What could it be? Thought Kushi. And she ripped open that brown cover. Inside that brown cover was this ball of wool. Ugh! A ball of wool? Who would think of giving a ball of wool as a birthday gift to a 10-year-old girl? Ugh, this is so boring. This is so old-fashioned. This is so uninteresting, thought Kushi. Let me see who has given me this gift. Oh, Kala Auntie, she read out her name. Kala Auntie always keeps giving these boring gifts. Very boring. What could you do with a ball of wool? Oh dear, listen to this story to find out, my dear. What could you do with a ball of wool? Oh dear, listen to this story to find out, my dear. She threw the ball of wool. Didi! There came her little brother and he jumped high up and caught the ball of wool. Didi, now it's your turn. Come on, I'm going to throw it back to you. He threw it back to Kushi. Kushi threw it back to Dhruv. Dhruv threw it back to Kushi. And Kushi threw it back to Dhruv. They were laughing and they were giggling. This unexpected game of catch and throw had reminded them of those days when they used to play in their garden. Didi, that was so much of fun. One last time. Let me see if you can catch it, okay? Here, go! And Kushi missed that. And the ball of wool went rolling under the sofa. Dhruv! But she smiled. Many smiles. Okay, the ball of wool was spreading happiness. Okay, Didi, I'm going now. Kushi bent down, picked up the ball of wool. But it was completely tangled. She had to cut some knots. She had to cut and remove. She had to remove some tangles. She had to cut small pieces. Finally, she managed to make another ball, a smaller ball of the same wool. She kept it on the table and she went out. What could you do with the ball of wool? Oh dear, listen to this story to find out, my dear. Remare, 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 re. Remare, 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 re. Just then, Dadi entered Kushi's room. Beta, Kushi beta. Kushi beta, where are you? I've made some laddus and I've brought them for you. Kushi's room is always like this. Let me fold her bedsheet. She kept her plate of laddus on the table and she was about to go to fold the bedsheet. Just then she noticed on the table there was the ball of wool. The same ball of wool. It's been such a long time since I did any knitting. This wool, I think I'm going to do some knitting today. Huh? Immediately, she dropped the blanket, okay, and she left the plate of laddus on the table, and she took the ball of wool with her, smiling away. I think I will make a small red cap for Chotu. Chotu is the newborn in our family, the smallest one, okay? And I'm sure he'll look good when he wears that tiny little red cap. Remare, 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 re, remare, 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 re. Dadi was smiling from year to year. It's been such a long time, since she did any bit of knitting. So she was very, very glad. She took the ball of wool and she started knitting. Nickety knack, nickety knack, nickety knack. After hours of labor and hard work, the small red cap was ready. Dadi was so happy. She gave it to the little baby. Okay, oh my God. And you thought what you could do with that ball of wool? What could you do with the ball of wool? Oh dear, listen to this story to find out, my dear. The ball of wool had become smaller in size, but the happiness was spreading. The smiles were increasing. First, Kushi and her little brother had played catch and throw, just like a toy ball, with this ball of wool. And they were smiling and giggling. And now Dadi was knitting and she made a cap and she was still smiling. Aha! Happiness and joy was spreading everywhere thanks to this ball of wool. What could you do with the ball of wool? Oh dear, listen to this story to find out, my dear. Dadi kept the small ball of wool on her desk and she went to the kitchen to finish her work. Dadaji came over there. Beta, where is the newspaper? Can one of you get me the newspaper? He sat on his rocking chair comfortably. The newspaper is right over here. I'm always forgetful like this. Okay, he picked up the newspaper. He opened his specs box. He carefully picked up the spectacles and he was about to rest them on his ears when tick! There came a sound. Ayyo! I think my spectacles are loose. They have become loose. They are also becoming old, right? I wish there was a string somewhere so that I can tie them up and tighten them up, thought Dadaji. Dadi always keeps all those things. Let me see if she has kept... there! A red ball of wool. Very gladly, he took the ball of wool. He cut long strings and he wound them around his spectacles. Remare, 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 re. Remare, 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 re. What could you do with the ball of wool? Oh dear, listen to this story to find out, my dear. So many things you can do with that ball of wool. Do you know that? Okay, now the spectacles were ready. Dadaji was once again happy. Once again started reading his newspaper very seriously. Smiles were spreading, but the ball of wool was becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. Something that was so big became like this, and then now it was like this. Dadaji left the remaining ball back on the desk and he went back to reading his newspaper. Remare, 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 re. Ding dong! Remare, 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 re. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong! The neighborhood kids for sure, Kavya and Kavan, they loved to play with our calling bell. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong! Coming! Kushi's mother went to the door. Yes, Kavya. Yes, Kavan. What do you all want now? Auntie, we have some balloons, Auntie. We want to blow the balloons and then we want to tie them with threads, Auntie. And then we want to hold them just like this and we want to run fast in our garden, Auntie. Okay, what do you want me to do? Asked Kushi's mother. Auntie, do you have threads, auntie? Long threads we want. Long, strong threads. Okay, give me a minute. Kushi's mother looked here and there. You are right. What do you think she was going to give them? Aha! Here we have our wool. She cut long threads, okay, and she gave it to Kavin and Kavya. Thank you so much, auntie. They blew their balloons and they tied them with the wool which Kushi's mother had given. They held the balloons, right, and they ran fast in their garden. Thank you, auntie. Re mare, re mare, re mare, re. Re mare, re mare, re mare, re. What could you do with the ball of wool? Oh dear, listen to this story to find out, my dear. What could you do with the ball of wool? Oh dear, listen to this story to find out, my dear. There are so many things you could do with a ball of wool, right? Do you still think it's old-fashioned, useless and waste? Just like how Kushi felt? Beginning of the story, you remember? The ball of wool was becoming smaller and smaller in size, but it was spreading joy. It was spreading smiles. First, Kushi and her brother played catch and throw with it, and they were giggling. And then it was Nani or Dadi. She was actually, she knit a beautiful red cap, and then it had become small. But then she was also happy. Okay, happiness was spreading. And then it was these two children. Oh my God. They had tied the balloons and they were running in the garden. Oh, how could I forget Dadaji? Dadaji again had used this wool to fix his spectacles. Wow. So many different uses of one small thing, right? Yeah, let's see what happens. The ball of wool was there lying on the sofa. And Tom, the cat, had just woken up. Meow! It's such a lazy morning. I wish there was a mouse running around to chase and catch. How interesting it will be. Or I wish there was a toy, and his eyes fell on the small ball of wool. He bounced on the sofa and the ball of wool was no less. It rolled down on the smooth mosaic floor. Tom chased the ball of wool. He pounced on it. He pushed it. He kicked it. He clawed it. My God, it was a wonderful game of run and chase, right? Here, there, everywhere. Meow, 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 meow. So much of fun Tom had. Finally, Tom could actually sense a real mouse. He forgot all about the ball of wool and he jumped out of the balcony to chase the real mouse. But it was good fun for Tom. Kushi's mama came to the living room and there she saw this tangled mess of wool. Absolutely knotted, tangled between the legs of chairs, tables, sofas, desk. Very patiently, she bent down to make it into a ball again. She cut off the knots, she tried removing the tangles, and whatever left was something very, very less. Just this. What could she do? There were so many knots. She threw the knotted ones into the dustbin, and all that she could manage was this. The ball of wool, which was so big, had become this, and this, and now this. What could you do with a ball of wool? Oh dear, listen to this story to find out, my dear. Re mare, re mare, re mare, re. Re mare, re mare, re mare, re. Come on, faster. What could you do with a ball of wool? Oh dear, listen to this story to find out, my dear. Re mare, re mare, re mare, re. Re mare, re mare, re mare, re. Just this. She just left it in one corner and she moved on to continue with her work. Ting tong, ting tong, ting tong. Ma, open the door. Kushi's mother opened the door and there Kushi was standing. Mama, I should tell you something. Yeah, Kushi, first sit down. Mama, we have a holiday homework, ma. Listen to this now. Okay, Kushi, tell me, what's your holiday homework? Ma, we are supposed to make or write or, bake or do something, ma. Very creative we are supposed to do. Okay. Ma, you know what I'm planning to do? The ball of wool I got as my birthday gift, remember? I'm planning to make a pencil pouch with that, ma. Don't you think it's a good idea, ma? Remare, 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 re. Remare, 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 re. That ball of wool. Oh, that ball of wool. Yes, sir, ma. But you threw it away, right? You didn't like it. You said it's boring, it's uninteresting, it's old-fashioned. What could anyone do with a ball of wool? Yeah, all that you said. Yeah, ma, at that time I said, now I'm planning to make a pencil pouch, a nice bright red pencil pouch. Do you like my idea, ma? Asked Kushi. But Kushi, are you sure you want to do all that with this? Ma! What happened to my ball of wool, ma? What happened? Kushi, that day you were playing with that ball of wool, right? At that time. Now what happened? It got tangled and we had to cut. So a little bit of wool was lost in that and it became smaller. And then Dadi had used it to make a cap and it became even more smaller. Dadaji had used it to tie his spectacles, tighten it, okay? So it became even more smaller. And then this Kavin and Kavya had come and they wanted threads to tie their balloons. So I had to cut and give them, so it became even more smaller. And then our naughty little cat Tom, he played with it, he messed it up completely, knotted, tangled. So I had to cut all the knots, tangles, all the messed up parts. And this is what is left, Kushi. Ma, what will I do, ma? What could I do with the ball of wool, my dear? Listen to my story, you will find out. Oh dear. Ma, but wait a minute. I'm getting a great idea, ma. Okay, what's your great idea now? Ma. The whole thing that you said right now, doesn't it sound like a good story? Don't you think I can write it down like a story? Do you think I should give it a try? Wow, fantastic. Sit down and write it into a story. So Kushi went to the corner of her room, her favorite cozy corner. She sat down, she took her notebook and she started to write the story of the ball of wool. Once upon a time, there was a girl who got a ball of wool as a gift. She thought it was useless and waste. What else could she think about? Okay, and then the magic happened. The ball of wool, they played with each other, the brother and the sister, and the happiness spread. The ball of wool became smaller, and then Dadi made a cap. The happiness spread, it became even more smaller, and then Dadaji used to tighten his spectacles. The happiness spread, but the ball of wool became even more smaller, and the two little kids came home and they used it to tie their balloons with. It became smaller, but happiness became more and more, and the little cat played with the ball of wool and the ball of wool became smaller, but the joy and the fun multiplied. Happiness became more and more, it increased. Finally, it became so small that the little girl, Kushi, didn't know what to do with it. However, she sat down to write this wonderful story. How nice it is when small things bring so much of joy. Small things bring greater joys. She ended her story. And everyone in her class, she knew, were going to clap for her story. And that's exactly what happened. She took the story and she got all the claps from her classmates. Yeah, right? Because this story was so unusual. There were no Maharajas, Maharanis. One simple ball of wool, one small thing. But the happiness was so much. It was more and more, and it was still spreading. The entire class was happy, and most importantly, Kushi was very happy. Thanks to the ball of wool. Small things that bring joys in our life. Kushi happily went back to her home. Remare, 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 re. Remare, remare,